Stand by for the Brewery Underground podcast.
In Nashville's level rise, craft and brews beneath the skies. Stephen Scott, they lead the way. Brewery Underground, night and day. Raise your glass, let's ignite. In this city, we unite. Raise your glass, let's ignite. In this city.
Hey, welcome back to the Brewery Underground podcast where, hey, I'm Steve and you're
And
Scott.
I am Scott.
We haven't changed.
Again with the hair.
Again with the hair.
My hair changes, yours doesn't.
That's right. That's right. And we still are
Yes.
the Brewery Underground podcast. And on today's episode, we're extremely happy and welcome in Emily Hutto. She's the founder of RadCraft.
Hi,
How are you,
Steve.
Emily?
I'm so good. Hi, Scott. My hair changes a lot too.
Hello. Well, good. You and I have that in common.
It's
then.
great to be here, fellas. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. We appreciate you. I want to read off a couple of your titles,
Please
if I
do.
may. And let me know if I leave any out. You're a journalist, freelancer, podcaster, strategic marketing professional, public speaker, specializing in the craft beverage supply chain. Did I get, is that all correct?
You got it all.
Is there more?
Well, I just did the math recently, and I've been working in the beverage and supply chain space for about 16 years. My role has evolved, but all of those things are true. I started out as a journalist telling stories about the craft beer industry, specifically in the Pacific Northwest, where I went to college. And that freelancing landed me a gig writing a book called Colorado's Top Brewers, which profiled not just the top brewers in Colorado at the time, it's very outdated today in 2026, but we also profiled some of the best chefs in Colorado and got them together to do food pairings. It was such a fun book to write and be a part of, and it introduced me to literally every Colorado brewer at the time, to which I visited all of them, just about every single one at the time. They were opening left and right, but I did my best. So I think the count back then was maybe under 200. This is a little more digestible than our now close to 600, but please don't quote me on that because I haven't checked our number in a while. But long story short, a lot of those brewers in the book connected with me to do marketing and sales projects for them. And I adapted those freelance jobs that I was getting into an LLC in 2012. RadCraft is a napkin name, literally drawn at a bar over beers. It stands for the word radical, which I adore. It's a nod to Colorado, where I'm from. And now, 13 years later, I can tell you my elevator pitch, which is that we do marketing, communications, and sales support for the beverage supply chain. And that includes the farmers who are growing grain and hops that then sell that product to maltsters and brewers and distillers down the line.
So the name RadCraft, was that the very first name that you just decided on, or were there others out there
I think that was
you were thinking about too?
I was at House at Amato's in Denver with a couple buddies from high school and college, and we were brainstorming, and it was like, yeah, that's the one with a capital R and a capital C. And I got the LLC a few weeks later. But to be honest with you guys, I didn't think that I would ever use this name all that publicly. I just needed a vessel for my freelance that I was doing at the time.
We should have known about you prior to when we did, but we came across you as we had reached out to Riverbend Malt House. And you must be, are you the marketing director for them?
Effectively,
Because you were the liaison
sure,
between
yeah.
us.
RadCraft does all of their marketing. So however you want to describe that partnership, it's true.
Yeah, it was great. So we were in touch with them, and then we were kind of corresponding with you, and you were setting us up, and then you put us in touch with Brent, and we did all that. And then we had further conversations, and then you was like, well, you kind of were telling about what you did, and then you're like, I have a podcast too. And then I started listening to the podcast. We're like, holy crap, we missed this whole thing we didn't know about. So extremely happy to have you on because of that. That one thing led to you being on here, which is so interesting too. Everything you're doing is very, very interesting. We'll talk about all of it.
Well, we know that you're drinking some tea tonight. You're not drinking actually alcohol, and we're not going to hold that against you. But you got something you're drinking out of. It's kind of interesting, right? And the cup you're
Yes,
drinking.
I have a vessel here that says, "Behold the fields where I grow my bucks. Lay thine eyes upon them and see that they are barren." And you can see on my mug that it has barren fields of what maybe would be barley for me. But yeah, my buddy Wes got me this mug. And you
Love
guys are both
it.
drinking beers made by brewers who utilize Riverbend malt. So I love the connection.
That's right.
Yes. What do
That's
you
right.
got, Steve?
Yeah, I've got the our friend from Brewery here. It is called the Blue Door Bitter. So, yeah, I've been sipping on this for a few minutes and has some amber malts in there and toffee and some tea biscuits. So, I'm not that far off from you there, Emily.
It's all that delicious riverbed malt in there.
Yep, there you go.
It's so delicious. I've got another company that uses riverbed malt. Let's see here. It's called Stokehouse Signature, and they're right here out of Nashville, Tennessee, one of my favorite new breweries. And when this one is gone, I've got some of their original, which is my favorite current beer right
I
now,
love their branding.
which is just a traditional Tennessee lager that uses riverbed malt. It all comes full circle, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's very interesting. And, Emily, the other interesting thing is getting you on tonight, as Scott said, because when we have done interviews, when we did interviews, I mean, with Brett Manning, I mean, it was such a learning experience of what, he does. And I'm curious because you've been in the marketing realm, as you said, for a long time now, in working with a lot of these brewers and others. What have you learned over the years and your experience, and especially marketing of what you've been
Thanks,
doing with them?
Steve, and to both you and Scott, y'all are so flattering. Thank you for having me on and for this conversation. Brent is an exceptional storyteller, and one of the reasons I love working with him is that he's this wealth of knowledge about craft malt, but also he's full of alliterations and amazing allusions, and he's just, full of metaphor that helps you understand it. And he's got a great kind of like storytelling podcasty voice with a lovely Southern drawl. So if Brent ever listens back to this, he knows I love working with him. So over the years, something I've learned, especially about brewers doing their marketing, is that they have a gold mine of marketing resources and content opportunity in their brew house, making their product before they ever even leave and meet the public. And I think one of the reasons that the malts, the ingredients, the hops, the process itself is often not talked about as regularly in the marketing space is that we're all generally utilizing the same process, and not everyone who's doing marketing for a brewery knows that process as intimately as the person whose job it is to do so professionally. I wouldn't expect that, but there is that disconnect often. So something I've learned to just put it quickly with working with breweries over these years is that if they're not marketing their ingredients already, they have a huge opportunity.
Yeah, we got so much, and I hear it from friends, so much positive feedback and so much cool feedback on that episode with Brant because it was that it's all those things you described. He was technical, but he said it so we could explain it, and there was kind of the science behind it, and everything we were asking, we didn't know. We really were learning at the same time. Like, we did our research, but we didn't know all these things, and it was like, and people were like, "That was cool. It was science involved and all that," but he made it
Heck
easily for us to
yeah.
digest.
And I think, and I also think what's really cool from your standpoint and going on your website and looking at what you do and working with all these partners is that you're helping bringing everybody together because as we did Riverbend, it's talking about, they're working with farmers too. And you're also involved in that kind of aspect
Yes,
of things, right?
Steve, and that's exactly what I aim to do is be the glue along the supply chain. This in particular supply chain of farmers to maltsters to brewers and distillers is an important one for our industry because it's the flavor of what we're all drinking and why we're all here. A lot of us love that science and technical element to beer because we made it ourselves or often do have fermentation projects going on at home. So I think that's one of the reasons so many of us got involved in the first place. So there's a true human interest there. And then on top of that, this supply chain extends much more extensively beyond farmer to brewer because we have folks that are creating seed. We have folks that are breeding it at the university level, selling it at the professional level. I mean, there is so much agriculture that goes into just what's in our glass. And that agriculture is something that we've had a heightened focus on it in the last, I'd say, 5 especially, but maybe 10 years of my career. Lucky me. I'm so excited to be in beer at this time as we bring it back to local farms in our regions, in our states or even our towns, depending on where we live. And that's a really special spot, I think, bringing beer back to the agriculture that fuels it. And I think it's a huge opportunity in a year when we're otherwise looking at some flat places in the beer community. And I don't want to say down because I'm really not abreast to the numbers well enough, but a lot of people are taking super close and conscious look at what they're bringing in financially, what they're spending. It's a year of line items in the craft beer industry, and I'm just so elated to be able to talk about ingredients and farms and really bring it back to the essence of what we all do as part of my day to day. It keeps me literally eyes on the horizon, puns intended, all of that. But it keeps me positive and hopeful too.
Yeah, and we've seen the changes. I mean, Scott and I, living in Nashville, we've seen. I mean, just recently, there was a big change announced with 2 breweries in Nashville, Black Abbey. They've been around for a long time, and they're merging. And Jackalope Brewing here in Nashville is taking them over. And if you would have said a year ago, "Is this going to happen?" I'm not so sure, Scott. We would have believed that one. But it's
Not that
really
one.
sort of no. But it's really sort of like the evolution, Emily, of where things are going in the marketplace. And, as a marketing professional like yourself, you're seeing it. And I would imagine that the partners that you work with, you guys are having to stay on top of this all the time to say, to make sure that
Sure.
everybody's staying
Yes.
relevant.
And I'm sure I'm biased when I say this, but times like these call for more marketing. They call for more incentivization of your customers to return and they call for more creativity. So, um yes, to everything you just said. And I also want to point out that beer has never not been a dynamic place to be. It is an industry that is agriculture based with a live product and it's consumer dependent. So we have all of these factors out of our control. We all got excited about it around the same time, and what a fun time to be in beer that was 10, 15 years ago. Um, that's as far as I go back, so I'm sure there are folks who have much more exciting stories from those 2 decades before that. But all that to say, I think that the craft beer space will always change. It will always be dynamic, and we might have seen its boom in our time already, and that doesn't mean that we don't get to still enjoy it authentically in our communities as an established cultural practice instead of a big booming industry that's rapidly changing. That could be cool.
Emily, I know brewery sourcing local ingredients is important to you. Should breweries know their farmers and their malt houses? And if so, why? And why is that important?
I know I've made it pretty obvious that this is one of my priorities, and so thank you for the platform for my soapbox. Breweries getting connected with the farmers who are responsible for their ingredients, or any producer getting connected with the farmer responsible for their ingredients is so significant because this is the source of your flavor. This is your differentiation from other products. This is the moment that people experience when they try it for the first time and return to it over and over again. Malt in particular is such a huge derivative of a beer's flavor. that I'd say it's so important to get to know the folks who are growing your grain and then malting your grain, because knowing those ingredients makes for better beer. Not only is it a top quality product that you're getting from the ground, especially with some smaller and intentional farmers. If you're growing grain, in particular barley in the United States, you are committed. This isn't exactly a cash crop, and people are doing it because they want to better serve the beer and spirits industries. So those are people to get to know, because that's the source of your flavor. It's the source of the quality of your product. And it's a huge place, or a huge opportunity, I should say, for troubleshooting. If you know your maltster and the person who grew that grain, you're so much more likely to develop relationships and solve those problems together. And that's going to make your product better in the end too. So what I'm soapboxing on is that it's better for the bottom line, because if you're making better beer, all the more reason to pay good money for better beer.
And and Brent talked about this too, having a line of communication with, say, the malt house. Suppose you wanted to tweak something. I'm looking for this. I'm trying to get this out of this beer. I want to create a beer. You've got that direct line of communication, right? And we learned from, like, malt houses can do that. They could customize something for you specifically, which is very, very cool.
Yes, that's the fun part, when you get to go to your maltster and say, "Hey, I want to create this exact flavor, or I want to use this exact grain from this field where I know where it came from." And your maltster can work with you on a custom project, which surprises and delights them and is why they do what they do. It's very similar to a brewer or a distiller, I would say, who's excited about a new project that they're working on that they get to do in a one-off or small batch capacity. There's redundancy in malting and brewing, and when you get the opportunity to experiment with your friends, it's one of the reasons we all stick around in this community year over year.
And not to get lost in this entire conversation, you have such a great history of this, because before you started RadCraft, you were also involved and have been involved in homebrewing.
Yes, I sure was. And I have my college roommate Trevor to thank for that. He's the one who really sparked the first interest. And after living with him, I got on board in a big way, and got just super excited about fermentation. Um, I have indeed tried to malt a batch of grain in my oven. I don't recommend it. I actually do recommend it, because you really get to know why you appreciate your maltster so much. But for all you home brewers out there are small maltsters doing it for you, and you can buy their awesome products online.
I heard you say, and it was in your first episode of your podcast that we'll get to, but and I like this statement. You said, "I'm one of the many home brewers out there who took her work pro. I don't make beer at a brewery, though. I write and speak about craft beer and malt for a living," which I thought was very, very cool. Like, you were a home brewer, but then you took the pro side, you took it to another level.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the shout out quote too. Um,
See, we really did
yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. I had big aspirations to own a brewery of my own. I think a lot of us who made our own beer in our garages felt that way. Like, oh, I'm going to do this for a living one day, or I'm going to start a brewery, or I know this buddy of mine is so good. This buddy's a better brewer than mine. So I'll get in on a brewery, and I'll get his recipes, or I'll support his brewing. We all have those fun dreams as home brewers. And to those who go pro, I'm so impressed by them endlessly, day over day. But what happened is, I used my background, I used my skill set, and I kind of fell into slash carved my own path for this wonderful career in craft beer and craft malt communications that I feel really grateful to be in. And it's very much a product of my connections with all of the people in the space.
And you found, going down this road, you've discovered other things too, right? It was kind of maybe beer to start with, and you've discovered all these other things like fermentation, right? I think I heard you say sake and distilled spirits and things. So like that path kind of led you down all these other paths too, and let you learn as you kind of went down those paths about these other
Many
things.
rabbit holes. Yes, yes. My favorite of them being sake. So when I was writing for a publication now defunct called Beer West magazine, my editor was invited to we didn't really know much about it, this sake class. And it was multiple days, and this guy from Japan, or maybe he was originally from Japan, but he was living in New York at the time. He was going to be in Portland, Oregon, and she didn't really want to go, and she was looking for a writer who would go and cover it. And I'm like eager beaver at this point in my journalism career to learn anything new and have a story and a byline. So I went unknowingly to effectively a cicerone's or a sommelier's equivalent certification in sake. Took the class for a couple of days, met wonderful strangers who weren't, and 2 days later from all over the country who were there to get their certification too. I had no idea about the in-depth nature of the course that I was walking into, but I'm so glad I did so blindly, because I got this certification at a very young age in sake, and I've been extremely interested in that product and with rice fermentation ever since. And I'm super excited to report that I see brewers experimenting with rice and utilizing it as a recipe developer, or a booster, I should say, more and more.
Yeah, I guess that's something too. We could this seems like a whole big topic of the beer community, right? Of things expanding. I mean, not just craft beer, but different offerings. So, can you go into that a little bit more? Obviously, you're seeing that expand more too.
Yes. And I'll start with alternative grains, as I'll call them, or basically non-barley. Barley is the primary ingredient in craft beer, but we see a lot of rye, wheat, corn, and now things like rice, sorghum, kernza. I mean, you name the grain, there are probably people in different areas of the world fermenting expressions of that grain. And you can go down these rabbit holes all over our this country, North America, or anywhere else, and see the excitement around fermented grains across the community. One that I really am excited about is rice. And I also think that corn, as an addition to things like Mexican lager or just light lager in general, has been uh, quite frankly spectacular on my taste buds these last few years. And so it's fun to see that crop be utilized so much more, in particular because our history of beer in the United States is one of this kind of corn based, light, fizzy, long forgotten flavor that we're now coming back to in a very intentional way agriculturally, working with farmers, exploring different varietals of corn. One of the prettiest things I see is Bloody Butcher laid out on the riverbend floor before malting. Those bright red kernels are purple sometimes, and they just have this full spectrum of that reddish to purple hue. But all that to say that the experimentation in grains is so awesome. And I think that we also see an experimentation in beer styles as we explore more of the depths of the history of beer making and fermentation in general. One style that I'm seeing, and I'd love to hear from you guys if you're experiencing this down south too, is Czech lager. The Czech lagers are everywhere right now, and
Yeah.
I'm stoked.
Yeah, I think it's part of that traditional. A lot of breweries in beer, just in general, seems to be going back to those traditional style beers. Just and we've mentioned beer flavored beers, and they're done so well. Like
Yeah.
Mm,
this
yeah.
one I'm drinking, this original, right? It's just a Tennessee lager. You'd asked
Yep.
me 5 years ago if I would have liked the lager, I wouldn't have liked any of them, and they are so good right now. So yeah, I think it's the trend, just kind of
it
traditional style beers.
It really is, and to backtrack a little bit what you were saying about the Mexican loggers, because we last year in 2025, Scott and I will go travel with some other friends as well. We were up in Ohio, we were through Tennessee, and we went on a couple of brewery runs for like a week, and it was like everywhere we would go into a brewery, it was like during the summer, they got a Mexican lager, got to try that
Everyone,
Mexican lager.
it was a
Everybody,
theme. Every
it
single
was
one
a
had
theme.
one.
It really was, and I was really getting into it. I know Scott was too, and some of our other friends are like, "Try that Mexican lager, yeah." And it's such a great, light, good beer, especially for that time of the year.
And I like
Heck
the fact
yeah.
most of them had the stronger the corn flavor in those, the more I seem to like them.
Could not agree more. It's this kind of sweet, earthy space that just is unique in comparison to other lagers that you come across. So I want to take this opportunity to give shout out to a couple of my partners. One of them is the OG of Mexican lager creation in Colorado, and that's Ska Brewing. They've been putting Mexican lager in a can um, longer than I've been legally able to drink beer, and they are still selling their Mexican lager and fun renditions of it now as one of their best sellers to date. And then I also will shout to Lone Tree Brewing Company, their RadCraft's longest standing partner. They've been making their Mexican lager out of the gate. And I remember feeling so excited because Ska paved the way. And then for a long gap, they were the only Mexican lager maker, at least that you could find around here, that wasn't a one off. So when Lone Tree put their Mexican lager into a can, that was, I give or take, 12-ish years ago, maybe a little less than that. I was just excited to see a Mexican lager that was a flagship out in the market. And Lone Tree's done very well with that beer, multiple Great American Beer Festival awards. Just over this last week, they won a gold at the Colorado Brewers Cup for their Mexican lager. And Ska is well decorated for their Mexican lager too. So it's fun to drink beer in rural Colorado where I live and it be this awesome style that just hit the national mainstream radar a couple of years ago. We're feeling ahead of the times
Yeah.
for once, which isn't always the case in southwestern Colorado.
When you're working, especially here in 2026, when you're working with the marketing with all the partners that you have, what's been or what do you think is going to be more of the focus this year on certain beer styles?
I think you've already said it to some degree, which is just beer flavored beer.
Yep.
People want to drink a beer that they can repeat. I'm one of those people. I want to have a couple of them at the bar, or I want to have a six pack in my fridge. I want it to be low ABV, clean, bright, dry is what I always say when people ask
Yep.
what my favorite kind of beer is. But I think that cleanliness, that brightness, that dryness, it's returning as a trend, interestingly enough, as maybe a pendulum shift back from some of the crazy experimentation that we've all been experiencing in the beer industry. And as the beer industry grows up, so does its demographic. And
Yeah.
That's a good point.
we wanna take it easy these days.
When you so when you go into any brewery, maybe that you're not doing marketing for, and you look up, can you tell right away what you think for them is working and what may not be working? Is that something that goes through your mind?
Good question. It is hard to turn off the marketing brain
Yeah.
sometimes, and I'm sure it's hard to turn off the podcast brain when you're out there listening to others in the space too, or whatever our craft may be. So that's there. But something that I repeatedly tell customers and partners, especially when we first start working together, is I'm going to give you a third eye, if you will, or an outside looking in perspective, and I rely on your inside looking out so that together we can kind of mirror one another and create an understanding that it goes both ways. And so I think that yes, I would definitely look at a brewery website, for example. That's another a good place to kind of know if they're keeping up on things. And see, well, they need to update their beer list, or I had a bunch of questions about how to get there and park that just weren't answered, or they took me too long to find. The user experience that you're going to have when you're working with a website, or the user experience that you have when you first walk into a tap room, is definitely, I think, indicative of how they're doing it, and if they're doing their sales and marketing well. But I try to keep my lenses in check because I don't know their backstory, and there's a lot of different reasons why business owners make their decisions. So sometimes I'll come in thinking maybe just that, you need to update these specific website pages. And then they explain to me why they shouldn't. And that's typically how the conversations go, and they land in a compromise so that maybe the user gets a little more of what they need, but the brewer also or brewery has that ability to tell their story more clearly.
This is a perfect segue. I have okay. You take me right to this perfect segue. I got a
Sweet.
list of questions, marketing questions, so you get to expand on this. Okay. I've only highlighted 4 or 5. We don't have to go through all of them, but okay. Marketing questions. What's the biggest lie breweries still tell themselves about marketing? And these could just be fun things, you know.
Sure. We'll brew what we want and you can drink the rest.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay. Best marketing spend under $500.
A sponsorship of a community event.
Ooh, what's a good one? Okay, great. If a brewery only did 3 marketing things well, what should they be?
This is hard. Uh,
Only 3.
3 marketing things well. Make great beer. Perfect your website. And also accept that it's never really finished. That will be number 2. And the third marketing thing or tactic is tell your story clearly on whatever channels that you choose to tell it.
Awesome. Can I ask just 2 more? And there's
Sure, this is
sorry.
fun.
I just wanted to be fun with okay.
I'll have another answer to all of these in
Okay.
another 20 minutes. That's how it goes.
Well, I had a whole list of
Smoke coming out of the brain
highlighted
there.
a few, so you'd have to go through all of them, but what's something most breweries are doing on social media that's actively harming them or hurting them?
Copying each other constantly, left and right. It's a vicious cycle, y'all. Give me some fresh content.
Okay. What would some fresh content look like? What would you suggest?
Well, especially if we're working with an Instagram algorithm as
Mhm.
an example, there are a lot of trends out there, trending audio, types of content that we see perform well, and then we emulate that. So to some degree, we're trying to capture trends on social media. And I can't blame a brewery for trying and getting on board and grabbing that engagement, especially when it comes from that algorithm, which is ever changing. So I understand that they're trying to capture that. But if ever you are leaning into a trend, my advice is to put your own company branded spin on it so it doesn't just seem like you're doing the same thing as everyone else. If your brand, for example, is all about ska music or tent camping or supporting dogs, then please make your version of that reel, of that trend, of that hype that you're trying to get on about the ska music or the tent camping or the dogs. And I think that if you're regularly asking, does this come back to my brand? Could this fall in with my mission and the way things look aesthetically? And the answer is yes, go with it. But I think sometimes we get lost in that need to put out content and we forget the reason that we're doing it. So I kind of killed the fast action
No,
questions
no, it's
with
okay.
that one.
No, it's fine.
You nailed it right there.
I've got one more, but I want to go back to something you said. Websites and why are websites still important? And is that kind of this where people can retrieve all of the information about a place, hours, menus, blah blah blah, that kind of thing, versus just like a social media page, which might just have partial things, right?
Sure, Scott. I love this question. And my answer is yes, plus 2 more answers. So I don't have an exact data point on this, but I can tell you year over year from the market research that I do that statistically more people will visit your website page than will ever set foot in your brewery. Oof.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when you think about those first impressions, maybe from across the country, even before someone is deciding to visit your place of business, your third place, your culture, is really putting your best foot forward right then and there on your homepage of your website so that that first impression is exactly the way that you would create from a hospitality perspective if someone walked in the door. The other answer to that question that I have is that your website is owned by you. You buy the URL, you host it yourself, you design it yourself. I mean, sure, maybe you're working with some contractors, but the point is you own this media. There's no algorithm that tells you what is going to trend. You have your own organic data points, And you don't have to pay additional money that you didn't sign up for to eventually get the same perks and resources that you originally had when you signed up for these platforms. I know we're all experiencing a big shift in alcohol producer Facebook pages and how they are demonstrated, or I should say, shared publicly on Facebook this year. That's been a shift everyone's dealing with. On your website, you don't have to worry about anything like that, and you don't have to pay extra to make those changes as they come up. So, something to consider as you run all of those different owned pages. I think the website is absolutely the most important. It's your hub.
And
You
it
think
seems
about us
like,
as
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, real quick. I just
Okay.
follow up. Just think about this as consumers, whether it's brewery or restaurant or anything, and you're driving down there and like, oh, let's. The first thing you do is go to the website. Hey, are they open yet? Or let's check the menu out. So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Can I bring my dog?
Yes,
Can I bring
all
my
those
dog?
questions should be answered on that thing, right?
Right
On the
then and
website.
there.
Mhm.
Yes. And maybe they're not on your homepage, but your FAQ page is a very
Yep.
clean and quick click away so that people can get the information that they need pretty shortly after landing on your page.
Steve, I feel guilty because our website has not been updated in at least 6 months, and we're the ones in control of it. Not that
I know.
not that we have a brick and mortar we're trying to get anyone to, but this
Well,
is
let me validate you. We have been under construction at radcraftbeer.com for not just months, but years now. And I
Yeah,
have finally accepted that it's a slower burn
yeah,
with construction zones that have otherwise operating places of business. Like I started thinking about it like a shopping mall where it's like, well, these stores are open and these others not so much. And
yeah.
sometimes that changes. And I think I had to get to that place that maybe bakers and professional chefs experience where they get home and they don't want to cook or bake for themselves. That might
Sure.
be what's happening with my website because
yeah.
I build so many better ones for my customers, but that's
And I
how it
also
all
think
ends up.
about, yeah, and I also think about so many questions from a marketing standpoint of what you do, because you started in 2012, and from 2012 to 2026, from a marketing standpoint, and helping out doing marketing for all these folks, how much has changed. You go from, we have a website, but wait a minute, there's all these other platforms. There's Facebook, which has been around forever, Instagram and TikTok. How do you work with all of them to navigate all these type of things?
um, I would say it's that duck on water analogy where it might just look like you're gliding along and going with the flow, but underneath you are frantically kicking and just trying to make it happen. The combination of the dynamic craft beer industry that I was describing before and the rapid changes in the communications age of information space in which we're all doing our work it's a lot to keep up with. And if you are a brewer out there considering what platforms to use, my first advice is consider your bandwidth first. So, coming back to that idea of your website is a non negotiable. After you've built your website and that's functional and you have someone or some entity updating it on a regular basis, what else do you have time for beyond that? And if the answer is no to any of the platforms that are on your agenda, don't do it. And I'm not saying don't do that forever, but if you're not putting that regular energy into these platforms, they're built on algorithms that rely on consistency and usage. So don't set yourself up for failure by launching a bunch of these and then not really updating them in the long term. So that's kind of my advice if you're just getting into things. And then I'll also say there are different platforms that are used by demographic sections of our population that you can use to your advantage or not. Um, to put it bluntly, Facebook has an older readership than Instagram, which
Yep.
has an older readership or um, user demographic than things like Snapchat and even Substack. I would say is one of our newer social platforms.
Yep.
So keeping abreast of who's using them goes a long way in determining if that's going to make sense for whatever business you're running. If your target audience or your target market isn't on Substack as an example. Maybe don't have one. Um, but yeah, I'd say like bandwidth and demographics go a long way when choosing, and so does just regular research, which can be conversations like these, talking to people you know in the industry and asking questions on. We're throwing spaghetti at the wall sometimes, so what's sticking for you?
Yeah. Yep.
Our podcast is basically the website. What we're really doing, we're kind of rehashing and putting articles and things on the website. So it's like we just get it all out here, basically, for the most part. And that is that thing to talk. It's the bandwidth part. We're going to focus our energies over here and the research that goes into these things, and we got to do some social media stuff. So,
Because people's attention span is so short, you know?
Oh yeah, 7 seconds or less, like
Yep.
goldfish.
yeah.
So in the spirit of market research, I'll try something out on you guys, which is a slogan or just a kind of mission-ish point that I've been thinking about for RadCraft, which is human powered since 2012.
Nice.
I
Yeah.
say that as a response to our growing AI community and,
Sure.
in my opinion, dependence. And I'm proud to say that we don't use a lot of AI because we don't want our content to sound like a lot of the other content in the beer and specifically malts and ingredients market that is out there already.
Yeah.
Um, as a person who's been writing a lot of the content about, or I should say, a small slice of writing a lot of, but a small slice of the overall pie on what's out there when it comes to beer journalism. I just think it's really important that we're putting out fresh information when it comes to our own brands. I'm not advocating avoiding AI for the use of efficiency or other internal tools that make your life easier. I'm just saying that we don't rely on AI to create our content. We rely on real humans, real designers, real copy editors, contractors of all kinds. And I'm very proud of that. This is a human powered industry of beer drinking. And so I want it to be a human powered company that I'm running too. Um, so I'm curious to see how that lands for fellow beer community
It,
friends.
it's fantastic because that
Yeah,
creativity still comes out, right? That's that
it does.
human thing. You know, you can get facts from AI, but and I love that because it's going to be colorful and it's just not going to be like you said. It's not going to be like stagnant and like scripted. You know,
Yes. You
I'll
could
say
see that.
this.
Yeah, we laugh at that. Sorry, Scott, to interrupt, but we
No,
laugh
you're
at
good.
that. We were actually talking to somebody last night that was texting us. They somebody reached out to him and asked us what we thought about who was reaching out to them in a response. And, I think both of our reaction was kind of like that looks sort of just scripted. It almost looks like AI, not like just a real
Yeah,
person that's just trying to reach out to you for whatever reason.
it was like insert name here. Yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
insert
so and
name.
so. Yeah,
And that's the slippery slope. I'm not here to get down on AI. I just think that when you are creating content about a brand that feels really personal to you, and a craft brewery or a farm or a malt house should be, I think that pouring a human element into it matters. And I just want myself to be very mindful about dependency on these once were tools and then could become crutches. I want to make sure I'm continuing to think for myself. So I have to keep it in check.
100%. Our even like I'm pretty proud that we write all of our own questions, good or bad. They are ours.
we
They
we
come,
we
they
They've
come
also
been
up.
great questions so far.
we
So
we also
insightful.
when we post things on our platforms of guests and things like that, we write it from our own perspective. It's
On
not
the
from
spot.
AI or anything like that, and so that's a good thing. Speaking of writing on your website, I was looking the other day and you have press releases on there, and you had mentioned this brewery before, one of your partners. I think I'm going to get it right. Ska Brewing, right?
Ska
Okay.
Brewing in
Yeah, so
Durango,
I wanna make sure I had the
Colorado.
name right, in Durango, Colorado, and, we talked about all the different changes that are going on in breweries, and I read this one that you guys had, put on your website, rolling out a new line of non-alcoholic, hemp-derived social tonic. Talk about that. That has to be really different.
It is really different. And I have been in the front seat of several different THC and other hemp derived brands through my work over the years, especially in Colorado, where we had more hemp legally available to us sooner. There's been a lot of product development in the space. Scott is experimenting right now with an exciting market section, which is low dose THC. When you get into higher dosages in Colorado, the qualifications change. Your ability to sell that to package that product and sell it and where all changes. And so Ska, to my knowledge, is the first brewery in Colorado experimenting with this low dose type of product. And it's exciting to see them expand. They've been in the scene for going on 31 years now. Their 30th anniversary was a grand celebration this last fall. And they have long been pioneers in all different kinds of beverage segments. They have Skagwa, which is my favorite bubbly water. They have experimented with hard seltzer, hard tea. I mean, they have played in so many fun sandboxes. They have a pilot system that allows them to do that in smaller batches. And they also have a national distribution network that's allowed them to explore a lot of the different segments in the marketplace as they've altered and changed over the years. So I'm excited about this new product of theirs. In particular, as I drink less and less, I mentioned earlier that the demographics growing up with the breweries, I think we can all relate to that, just taking it more easy. And I think Ska knows that its customers still want to be part of its environment. They want to be part of its brand. They want that social experience, but they just want to consume less alcohol. So this has been an exciting gateway. In Colorado and all over the country right now, we're dealing with a lot of uncertainty around legislation around hemp. And so
Yeah.
I really honor, or I should say, I commend SCA for exploring in this space while they can, when they can. That's very make hay while the sun shines farmer of them, and I can appreciate it because we don't know what's happening next.
Right, right. And that's just one example. I mean, you talked about the seltzers and ciders because that has also become you go into a brewery now and you even go into other places and you see more of those up on the board. Can you talk a little bit more about from a marketing standpoint of working with your partners of, hey, you got to have these too.
Sure. Um, I'm big on the option. I think it's important to have NA options at your place of drinking, especially if you are a more family friendly establishment. But if you hold yourself accountable for the research and development on the production of the packaging of and the serving of a whole new line, my best advice is to make sure that you have that bandwidth. We have a theme here, because you don't want to bite off more than you can chew and degrade the quality of your beer or pay less attention to it if you are calling yourself a brewery. So again, another slippery slope where it's so important to have those options, but I don't necessarily advocate for everyone trying to make their own because they just don't have that kind of capacity.
Right.
And there are great producers out there who do. So I see a lot. I see a lot of Athletic, for example, at various brewing companies. I'm sure you guys do too. They have an
Yeah.
insane reach. They make great liquid, and it's an excellent alternative if you are a craft brewer who cares about craft in all of your fridges, but you don't want to take the time and energy and money and resources to make a new NA brand.
Well, and it also seems like as you mentioned earlier, like circling back to the beginning of like, you have those, but now because more people are coming in, more families, hey, there's also this light lager over here for me to have too.
Something I think we're all seeing and feeling, and that we could embrace more, is the return of the brew pub model. That model fell away for a long time as we realized we didn't have to, right? We didn't have to be serving food or full on restaurant style service in order to make our product. Now, though, consumers have a lot of choices. this consumer tends to be older and come with more humans. A lot of our prime demographic in craft beer right now are parents. And so how can we provide that full experience again? And maybe it's not with a brew pub license specifically, which I know is going to change based on wherever you are, but just the providing of options, the serving of food so that people want to stay a little longer and have that second beer. I think we're coming back to a place in craft beer where the experience, well, we've always been in a place in craft beer where the experience matters, but it's starting to matter more and more depending on where you are and based on the just abundance of options that we have.
Yeah.
So I'll be excited for more food at breweries and more wide options as we continue to figure out what works and what doesn't.
This place right here, they've got great food and beer options. It's just
Yeah, Emily,
Stokehouse,
we got to get
ladies
to
and gentlemen.
Nashville, man, to go to Stokehouse. They have
Yes,
barbecue,
please.
great
I've
beer.
Yes.
Come
heard of
on.
them before. And,
Yep.
it's interesting the way that marketing affects our perception. I think their branding is so on point. And when you said just now that they have great food and a full experience, I thought to myself, of course,
Yep.
that totally tracks. They put so much care into how they put it out there from looking at their brand only, having never experienced it over in Colorado. That's the impression that I have of them. So yes,
We
please, I'll come to Nashville and drink that beer with you.
come on. That's the first place we're taking you.
We're
We
there.
took
We're
Okay,
some
there.
great.
people. We took some people that came to town and had been here before, the Hill Tappers, and the last time they were here, they didn't exist. Stokehouse didn't exist, and I go, "This is on your list. We are taking you." And we built it up so much they were ready to be disappointed, and they were not.
Yes.
So,
Well
so
done.
and we interviewed them recently. That episode's not even out yet, so that's coming soon. So maybe you'll get to listen to that one, and you'll learn even more about them.
I can't wait. I will tune in.
I want to go back. I didn't finish. I had one more question for you in the marketing questions, and I didn't want to let this
Yeah,
one go because I think it's funny, and I hope it's a funny thing. So, have
it's
you ever
great.
fired a client? And what? And if so, what happened? You don't have to mention names.
Absolutely. I have fired a
Oh,
client.
good, good.
And no way, I won't say names. Fired might be a little too bold of a
Sure.
statement, but sometimes you get to a point where it's just not working. My favorite way to fire a customer is when they don't need me anymore. That is such a fun conversation to have someone
Okay.
in, and because we've talked about websites a lot tonight, I'll use that as my example. But let's say we've built their website and we've taught them how to update it regularly and they have all the tools that they need to succeed and it looks great and things are working and they know they can call us if they need us, but it's just like, go free, spread your wings, have fun. That's a really fun way to fire
Right.
a customer.
Okay.
But then some of the less fun ways are that things weren't working out when it came to paying bills, or maybe it just wasn't the right fit anymore from a messaging perspective. We work with a lot of different teams and we try to integrate with whatever they have set up already. So sometimes the combination of people or roles or cooks in the kitchen just isn't a fit. And typically when that happens, it's no hard feelings. Everyone knows we're kind of on the same page. This makes sense. And being an over communicator and just straightforward about what's working and what's not, and being straightforward about things like finances has really helped me over the years to get to a place of comfort with those conversations. But truly, I am just the most grateful, lucky lady who has ever done beer marketing because I work with some fantastic customers. So many of them I've had longstanding relationships with. Lone Tree and I go back almost as long as I've been in business, 12 or 13 years. Ska and I are going on a decade. I mean, I just get to have these wonderful partnerships with people that grow over time, like relationships in real life. And that is just so special. And I feel grateful for it.
And when they work with you, right, and then you show them results, and you're like, okay, this if you do this and this and this, that's the proven thing, right? Just stick with me. I'll show you how to do it, and it works. And you're like, oh my god, it's see, I told you.
Yes, I hope everyone gets those moments of validation and understanding in their work.
I mentioned the podcast. You have a podcast, but prior to something led to the podcast, though. In 2020, you actually started these Zoom calls with people
I
that kind of
did.
ultimately led to the podcast. Can you talk about that? Why it started, and kind of what were you hoping to gain when you started those Teams calls or Zoom
It's
calls?
an it's another great question, Scott. Thank you so much. This is such a well-researched interview. Um,
AI did not do it. It all came
I know,
from
human
He did it
powered
himself.
here in action. So I'm laughing to myself because RadCraft Industry Relief started out a default. The world shuts down and I run a remote business without the ability to connect in person, which is what our industry is all about. So a bunch of folks asked me if I was planning on offering some type of virtual something gathering. We'd already done a few of those types of events in the past, so it made sense. And I said, sure. So I jumped on my first ever Zoom conversation and invited our network to join. And they really did week over week and then month over month once everyone got zoomed out to come and just honestly just be there in the space. I think in the very beginning of the shutdown period, people wanted a place to go and say, hey, is this what's happening at your brewery too? It was nice to crack a beer at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and see your friends from afar. It felt social, but it was also cathartic and it felt good to just talk things out and see how things were going in other corners of the state, country, etc. And these Zooms grew not just in attendance, but also in quality because what I ended up doing was theming each one. And sometimes I'd have a panel come on and talk or an expert come on or other times I'd do a round robin and ask the same question to every participant and we'd popcorn around and we'd all talk about how we were approaching events that summer or what kinds of forecasting we had in mind for the year ahead. Those are a couple of examples. And then we also got deep. We talked about mental health. We talked about balance and how we all stay just emotionally sound during this period of time. We had a stand-up comedian join us on one of them. I
Ah,
mean, we went in all the different directions that you could. It was so much fun, and we recorded every single one of them. And about halfway through those, which lasted about 2 years, my colleague Peter said, this would be a really great podcast. I don't know exactly what it is here, but like we were on to something. And this is something I think people are really enjoying coming to listen to, and they would listen to it in podcast format. So the podcast was born. And then another 2.5 years later, I finally found the right partners to help me make that podcast. And it is a snapshot in time of those conversations, some of the key players who returned regularly, and current in 2024, interviews with me and these key players about how their worlds have changed over the course of the few years and what's gotten better, what their silver linings have been. And what a valuable set of conversations. It was really fun to ask how people's lives have improved after, quite frankly, that dumpster turned forest fire that we all had to deal with during those years.
yeah.
It's a great podcast. I listened to it. You had great guests on there. I really enjoyed it. And you get snippets of some of those previous conversations along the way too, which I thought was really cool. You get some insight to those to the Zoom calls, right?
Thank you so much for that feedback. And thank you to Eli, Josh, and Carson who made that possible. The team were really the technical minds behind it, and they taught me everything I know about the tech side of podcasts and in kind of a 101 like expedient format. And I really appreciate them for that. Um, they made it possible.
It was awesome. Do you have plans to do more?
I get asked
I'm
this a
sure it's
lot.
bandwidth, right? Oh,
The
bandwidth,
answer is
yeah.
yes, yes. I'd love to make more podcasts. I'd love to turn RadCraft Industry Relief into something larger, maybe take on a second season with a different topic. But to transparently answer your question, I really don't think that will happen anytime soon, in partiality because of bandwidth.
Yeah.
So, RadCraft Industry Relief sparked a whole new business that I am privileged to be a part of called Hi from Durango. We're a podcast network and we help produce podcasts, not just about this area, but by people who are located in this area. And we have our plate full right now producing podcasts for other folks. One of those podcasts I'll give a shout out to. It's called "This Is Not Your Hobby" by an amazing woman, Julie Rhodes, who also does sales and marketing consulting in the beverage space. Her business is called "This Is Not Your Hobby Marketing Solutions." And her podcast is all about the bottlenecks that beverage brands experience in their sales and marketing departments. And she is sassy and snappy and funny about the way she interviews folks and the way that she delivers gems of advice for sales and marketing professionals. So "This Is Not Your Hobby" is a great
All right.
podcast. And so yeah, I'm like, I am making more podcasts, but not RadCraft Industry Relief at the moment.
Okay, I did hear you, and I was a year ago or and change, but I did hear you on Dave Zalatoris's Beer in Front episode too. I like Dave. I like listening to his stuff too.
I
I heard
love
some of
Dave. Thanks for giving him a shout out.
Sure.
Dave's the best. Beer in Front is an excellent production.
Yep. Well, I met him once. We did a live virtual happy hour with some friends, and he was on because he was on with Hoppin' We're Drinking,
Yeah.
Nick and
Yep.
Joe's podcast, and then right
Yeah.
afterwards he came on the virtual happy hour. Got to meet him virtually anyway and speak to him. So he's got a great radio voice, and he's got that.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Yep.
Let's go back to your book for a minute. I know you said it was 2012. And there's a couple cool things about it. You mentioned the breweries that you visited for research. And when I was listening to something along the way, it said you had visited, like, there's 160 breweries you went to
I
to
did.
do the research. I thought, this is the greatest research project on earth.
Absolutely, it is.
It really was. It was such a trip, truly a trip, a big road trip, kind of a series thereof across Colorado. I'm a Colorado native and I grew up on the Front Range. So to have a reason to drive to these far corners of my gigantic state that I'd never had an excuse to visit before was so exciting to me. So it was just an epic road trip. It required a lot of sleepovers and camping along the way as I indulged with the various brewers that I was meeting and interviewing. And it opened my eyes to the beer scene in Colorado and to the incredible beauty of the geography here too.
It was so good. And I saw something today. I assume you're aware of it because you probably put it on there, but there's a 4-minute YouTube video. And it must be from your adventures and from your there's 10 different breweries that are speaking on it. Okay, it's like 4 minutes long. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. Yeah, I worked with the gal who made it to recap the process. I took
Yeah.
video at a lot of the different brewers that I visited. I visited several beer bars as well. I remember a really fun interview with Chris Black in the basement of Falling Rock in Denver, and some others that like Euclid Hall, a couple other places that are no longer. But yeah, all that to say, tons of fun visits. I took video along the way, and there is a very archaic YouTube video that I'm amazed that you found.
I found it. It's
that gives you the lowdown.
It's got you. It's like there's no description. There's nothing other than I think the title of it.
Old school. Yeah. I feel like I used that for a presentation.
Okay.
I think it was at the Rocky Mountain Microbrew Symposium that next year in 2013, and I needed it to be live, and that's the whole reason it's on YouTube in the first place. But I can't believe you found that. That's so funny.
One of the other funniest parts about it, so it's rolling through the ending credits, right? And then for some reason I guess I want to make sure your name was on it, right? Like it's because again, there wasn't a lot in the description, and it goes so at the very end, the editing, the credits, video, author, Emily Hutto, usually haphazardly after multiple beers. This is And then this says right underneath, this is editing, i.e., deciphering of Hutto's pathetic excuse for videography. Callie Kerberly, is it Callie or Caberly?
Yeah, Callie, who made the video.
And I thought those were hilarious. I go, yeah, I was like, "Yeah, that's in real time. Like that happened." You know what I mean? Like it was okay.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, and, like, such a true call out, like, "Hey, I had to watch all these videos of you get drunk with brewers and, like, keep it together, but ask
Yeah.
them all these questions on camera."
Right.
And
Right.
now and yeah,
Like,
that's
good luck with
what
that one, right?
comes to haunt me 10 years later. Actually, no, it's been 13 years, hasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I can do that
Yeah.
math.
And I don't, if you're like us, a lot of times we'll go in there and like we want to do some social media stuff before I go to a brewery, especially if we're traveling, and we forget until maybe later on. So was that some of that? Like you start drinking the beer, you're like, oh, you know what? I need to get a video. I need to interview someone, but you're 3 or 4 beers in.
Yeah,
You
sometimes.
know, I think all of them were well staged. They knew I was coming. They knew I
Okay.
was taking video. It was a pretty elaborate email execution of emailing all of these brewers in Colorado and then also all of the chefs that paired up with them. Um, yeah, quite a staged event, but you definitely, I think, get to you have a beer with someone and you just derail. You go in a different direction. You're like, oh yeah, I wanted to ask you about this, or maybe I just remembered this on the tour. And so these videos, I'm sure, were just like all over the place
Yeah,
to
that's what
watch
makes it
back
fun, though.
on. And in the moment, I'm getting these gems of quotes, and I know exactly what my plan is as a journalist, and I've got it all up here in my head. And Callie, this poor editor, is like, "Lady, where do I even start with this?" But we had some great humor in the process of making.
No doubt. It looked like a lot of fun. And that the fact that I saw those credits and that was in good fun too.
Oh man, you're
shenanigans.
bringing me back to my early 20s. That's so fun.
I don't even know why I even looked back to look at the credits. I think it's just really want to make sure your name was on it, you know?
I'm wildly impressed, Scott. This is such good journalism that we're working with here.
Thank
You
you.
dug.
We
You
dig
dug.
deep over here. AI could not pull that out.
That's right.
All us. It was all human.
We're live. We're doing it live. We're doing it live.
We don't want to keep you forever, but we had a few more things Steve might have too. Steve, you got something, go ahead. I don't want to keep you from anything.
Oh, my only last question that I have before you have last questions is, Emily, when are you coming to Nashville now? I mean,
We need to make it happen. I
Yep.
have some dear friends that live there, and
Okay.
as you know, I work with Riverbend, who works all over the state of Tennessee. So let's make some plans.
All right.
I would love to come and see it through your eyes and go to your favorite places.
Right.
Yeah,
We'll
just
do the
come,
good stuff.
just come when there's not an ice storm.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll plan on that one
There you
for
go.
sure. I hope you all stay warm and safe.
Well, but look, it'll be 95 degrees before you can blink around here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll be on the other end of it soon. Do you go to
Count me
GABF
in.
at all?
I have participated in GABF for so many years. This year I'm TBD on GABF. Another popular one is the Craft Brewers Conference, which is coming up in Philly in April.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I will not be in Philly. So I'm sending all my good energy to the folks who are working hard to put that on and desperately trying to cram as many beers and conversations into their schedule as 4 days can allow.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you saw, but GABF this year, they're going to have it outside. They're changing the venue this year and putting it outside. Did you see that?
Yes, I did. And I mean, it's all over the news headlines in Colorado and
Yeah.
beyond right now. It is a major switch up, and to I'm excited to see what the resonance is among people who participate and volunteers. I'm also doing the sunshine dance so that we get perfect weather on those days for all of our
Please.
visitors. I think it was right before we started recording today when you were talking about Colorado just being 60 degrees 1 minute with a blizzard later that afternoon and like back and thawed again a couple days later. So we'll do the good weather dance for
Yeah,
all
because
of our
October, it could go
visitors.
either way, right? Or it could go both ways, literally.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, in an hour.
yeah, totally. So, okay, well, I plan on going. I've been 3 or 4 years in a row now. I plan on going, and I think they
Awesome.
said like the early bird tickets are only like $60. Like the prices come down. The days are different though. I don't think they've got the Friday session, but they've added Sunday, so some things have changed. I mean, I love the place. I loved it anyway. So we'll just see if it makes it better or worse or what. But it'll be different.
Yeah, let's stay in touch on your Colorado travels. I commend the Brewers Association for switching it up. I think that the Great American Beer Festival is so large, so well known. There's so many eyes on it to do so many different things, including keep the nostalgia alive for those who attended in its early days. And the Brewers Association has a lot on their shoulders to put that on, and I'm so
Yeah.
excited that they're breathing fresh life into it and in all the different ways that they are year over year.
Yeah, and I don't know, they didn't say that, and maybe there's some changes for some vendors too. I don't know. Maybe with all that, maybe it's not that it was hard, but maybe it makes it easier. I don't know. Maybe the whole thing has changed, and maybe for the better. We'll see.
I hope so. I think it's such a landmark in
Yeah.
our culture of beer, and I am excited to see what this next chapter looks like.
And when we go, we always go. We always do GBF on the one day, but we always do like 2 or 3 days prior, whether it be in Fort Collins or Colorado Springs. Last year, we spent all the days in Denver, so we're hitting all the breweries. That's as much fun. That's actually more fun than the actual event because you're getting to see all these new places.
Heck yeah. Please put Southwest Colorado on your radar for those few days, and
Okay.
I'll be your tour guide.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay.
We'll
I
go
got
to
something
Ska, and we'll have a Mexican lager
we have to do it.
There you
Okay.
go.
or
I love
two.
that.
Certainly will. I got something I want to end on, and this is going to be another fun thing. All right. And it won't take that much time. So I want to give you a fake brewery scenario. All right. Okay. If I give you it's fake, everything's fake, a fake struggling brewery scenario, can you give us some recommendations on what you would do to try to fix it?
You got it. I'll do
Okay.
my best.
Okay. I'm going to read the scenario to you. 20 or 30 seconds to read. It's just kind of a summary. All right. And let's see. Okay. So Rivertown Forge Brewing Company is a 5-year-old 15-barrel brewery. Taproom traffic is down 25%. Distribution is flat, and the flagship IPA isn't carrying them anymore. The two owners don't agree. One wants better marketing. The other thinks the beer should speak for itself. So marketing exists, but nobody really trusts it. Branding is generic. Social media is inconsistent and boring. They've got 18 rotating beers with no clear flagships, no email list or loyalty program. About $800 a month, $800 a month going to boosted posts and highway billboard. They've got good beer, limited budget, stubborn owners. What would you do to fix it? What would you kill? And can this brewery even survive?
Awfully specific. But I mean, this is how the process goes when
This is
you're
probably pretty
working with
normal.
a business. So yeah, I mean, this brewery has a lot going on, and the one part that stood out to me the most was when you said generic branding. So if I were working with this brewery, I'd say, hey, we need to pause everything else and go back to the drawing board on your brand. What do you already have going for you? What can we accentuate? What do we need to take away? What do we need to refine? What are you all about? And that's advice I'd give to any brewery, even a long established one that is well ingrained in their community. It's just to regularly come back to, why do we do what we do? What are we all about? And how are we different than others in this space? And if you continue to answer those questions and then ask why, like a 3-year-old would, well, we're different in this space because we make really good beer. Well, not quite. That should be a non-negotiable. Let's just start at really good beer. And then maybe you think you're different in this space because you care about local ingredients. Well, why? Well, because we have farms nearby and we like to support our neighbors. Okay, now we're getting to something. So if you keep asking why over and over and over again, it will likely land you in a place of differentiation and knowledge, deeper knowledge of your brand. And re-emphasizing that, or even going through a whole brand refresh or anything in between, is probably where this brewery needs to start, so that as they move forward, they know where they're coming from, and they have a guide or a compass, so to speak, to come home to, in terms of why they do what they do. And then I could probably come up with a lot of other things that they need based on that description. No offense to Tree River Forge Brewing. I forget the name already.
Rivertown
no-
Forge Brewing Company. Completely made
No
up, by the way.
offense to them, but I'll stop there and just say, like, go back and make sure that brand is strong before you
There you
move
go.
forward.
It's almost like let's do the basics. Let's do the basics good.
That's what it is. Yeah. And then so many businesses already know exactly why they're special and what they're all about. They just haven't put it on paper. And so going through that process, even just with your internal team, and then maybe doing your market research, show it to a neighbor, show it to someone else, and get that feedback is a really great way to start that costs you no money.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
It was fun.
I really do have one last thing. It's just talk about your team and how important they are to you and give them a shout out and how valuable they are.
Oh, thanks for that opportunity, Scott. Everyone who does work for RadCraft makes this company possible. I'm the talking head here, but I work with contractors across the country who are so supportive in making the overall work happen. And they have been for 13 years in various renditions and combinations. So thanks to them. And thanks to our incredible partners, our brewers, maltsters, hop farmers, distillers, all the folks we work with just really make me more passionate and excited about what I do. And I feel very lucky to be here. So thank you for that opportunity. And thank you both for having me.
Oh,
This has
thank
been
you.
Yeah.
so fun.
It's been our
Absolutely.
pleasure. Yeah, sorry to keep you so long. We've got more. We'll bring you back if you decide
I'd
to come
love
back.
to.
We
And
always
no
have more
worries.
questions.
I caused a lot of technical problems at the beginning of this conversation.
Yeah, you're good.
So
You're
I'll
good.
hang out. I'm good.
we don't want to keep you forever. We'll save some for later. But thank you so much. This has been so cool. It's better than I even imagined. I knew it would be great.
Thank you both so much for such great questions and good energy. I'm really looking forward to our time in Nashville together.
Yes,
Awesome.
totally. Keep up the good work out there. We see you. The community needs it. The industry needs it. Please keep doing what you're doing.
Likewise, friends.
And let me just finish with this. If there's any brewery out there, if you need some marketing help and you listen to this podcast, contact Emily at RadCraft. She can help you out.
They just got a bunch for free.
Thank
They
you,
just listen to
Steve.
this.
I didn't even ask him to say that, y'all.
There you go.
They can listen to this
Operators are
episode.
standing by.
They could pull so much freak information out of this from Emily, out of this episode. They could help
I know it.
people.
I know it. We're here to help everybody.
Heck yeah,
Emily,
I
how
like
do we
it.
find you? Before we go, how do we find you? How do we find RadCraft?
Sure. You can find me at radcraftbeer.com and on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at radcraftbeer.
Thank you. Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Yep. We'll be looking for you, Emily. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, you guys. Cheers.
All right. That'll do it to
Cheers.
everybody. Cheers. The Brewery Underground podcast.